Hey there, welcome to the Literary Escapes podcast. I'm Becky, and I'm glad you're here today. If you're a fan of books that give you an escape or let you explore other cultures, then you're definitely in the right place. So I'm glad you've joined us today. Stick around, we've got a great author interview for you, so let's jump right in. Welcome to the Literary Escape podcast, Jennifer.
Thank you.
I am so excited to have you here today.
I'm glad to be back. It's been a while since we got to chat. I'm glad
it has been a while. Yeah. It's one of the things I told you in my email that I'm trying to do better this year is to listen to the nudges I get to reach out to people when I get them. And I have noticed that when I ignore nudges, that, if God or the universe, however is trying to get a hold of me and I make it harder, then the messages just get louder. And
I love it. I actually have the same philosophy. That's what's freaking me out. There's not a lot of people because like you, I've been trying to be more aware, like that person that is in and out of my life. It's kind of like, I'll get this thing. I'll be like, I need to text them. And then you get the other noise from your life and you're like, okay, I'll put it on the list.
Do that later. Yeah.
And now I do the same. I'm trying, like you said, to be more aware. And what happens when I do it is amazing. Like when you hear from me or they were in a bad place or I needed something, but I didn't know. So I love that we're both on the same wavelength.
I know. And I've been on the receiving end of it enough to know that it can make a difference, And so, so I'm awfully glad that you were available on the other end of the email and we're amenable to this. So yes. I love that. So I had you in the book club last year and loved it. Your book was The Secret Love Letters of Olivia Moretti. I always get her name wrong.
Yes.
Olivia Moretti. And that took us to the Amalfi Coast. And it was a lovely story. One of our favorites last year. Yeah. And so I realized after the fact that I had never had you on the podcast. And so, because I was like, oh, I'll just go and reference her other, her other podcast. And there isn't one.
Right. Oh, that's so funny. I feel like I've been on your podcast, but you're right. It was book club. Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are.
I love it.
So how did you get started in writing? Let me just start from the beginning.
I'm one of these ones where at 5 years old, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a writer. Like literally I saved my diaries. And at 7 years old, there's this little entry that's like when I'm published in a famous author. Like, so it's bizarre when I look back. Like I always had a true north. I just knew I was going to be a writer.
I love that.
What happens later when you start to say, yeah, you're a writer and that's great. I actually wanted to make money at it and I wanted to go at it.
That's like two different things in life, isn't it?
Right. So like in my mind, I was going to be like on TV shows and like published. And it took me like 35 years to be like, oh, okay. Like I'm going to write poor for most of my life. And then on the back end, but it's okay because those are all the learning, all the learning curves. And I'm like one of these really intense people about when you want to learn whatever your hobby is and turn it into a profession or a craft. I love that Malcolm Gladwell. I think it's Outliers. There's one of them that I got. You need 10,000 hours. You need 10,000 hours. And I always forget the book and I got to look that up so I reference it properly. But I learned early on that all of those books under the bed, I literally wrote my first book when I was 12. I was like, I'm going to write this young adult romance. Because this was pre-age dinosaur time. There's no internet. There's no anything. There's nothing. If you want to like track down a writer, good luck. They're not available. Like you don't know anything.
Exactly.
And so I did this career report in 7th grade and they're like, oh, what do you want to be? I'm like, I want to be a writer or a vet. Well, I couldn't take needles. I didn't know science. My brother's the doctor in the family. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a writer. Like I like animals, but like,
the idea of looking at blood and such.
I want to rescue. I didn't realize I meant to say I want to rescue like thousands of animals and just like be with them, like not, do
I
doing
just want to be
medical stuff.
like a professional pet hugger or something, you know?
That's what that should be a career. I would be so good
Shouldn't
at that.
it? Yeah. Like you have
So
people in the hospital that go sit and
yes,
rock newborn
rock the
babies, you know?
babies.
It's like
Yeah. Yes, that would be,
they
that's why I
need
love
that for
the rescue.
dogs, right?
Yeah, so you go and you walk them and stuff, that's more my thing. But like there was nothing to say like how do you become a writer? So everything that I looked up was like, well, you write. And so in fact, without pre-age internet with all of this, oh, you need a business, you need 1,000 followers, you need, I was like, oh, I'm just going to write the book then because that's what I need to write to be a writer. And so I wrote 3 books in a row in this bubble, like just kind of like learning. And then
Yeah.
I started like sending things out and trying to get, do that switch from young adult to
Inquiry.
like adult. And then it just like morphed like over the years of my daytime jobs and trying to support myself and writing mornings and weekends and throughout life. So in a way, I feel like I cut my teeth on all of those things, and it's never a waste. Like I always say,
Yeah.
even if there's a blog post, it doesn't matter what I write. When I say like I try to like write every day, it doesn't necessarily mean like 2000 in my book or that
Right.
get done. Like, but if I can write like anything and like bring, even a great Facebook post, like if I bring some marketing or I bring some freshness or I bring it's all in the bucket of
Yeah.
like crap.
Writing.
So that's how
Yeah.
I look at it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. Yeah. Because I hear so many authors talk about not knowing what to say, like in their email or on
Yeah.
social media. And that's all just writing. Yeah. I like
Is.
that.
I mean, when you do a Twitter, I've told people like bring your voice to your books, like when you're teaching marketing, right? And put it out there so they know your brand. But if you don't know your brand, you find out by doing those posts, and that's writing. So all of that, it
Yeah.
goes into the queue, and it also makes me feel better because there's too many days where I'm like, yeah, I didn't write in the book, but hey,
But hey, I was on
right,
Twitter.
right, right.
That's awesome. Okay. Okay. So what was
Yeah.
your first book that was pitched and accepted and published?
It was called, it's a very old book that I wrote over and over. It was called Heart of Steel. And
Okay.
what had happened is that was like a real learning book for me because I ended up selling it to to a publisher called Lionhearted at the time. That
I
was
think I remember that one.
yeah, it was pretty much not good. I mean, I sold maybe 20 books. They were all friends and family. There was nowhere that they were really selling. You had to like find the place and then order the book, everything was,
Interesting. Oh, yeah.
but it was to me like my first published, book. It took, when they accepted it, I think it took 7 years to get it published. That's the other thing.
Holy moly.
It was my first foray into bad contracts. It was
Yeah.
my first foray into how bad do you want to get published? Do you want to get published at the expense of like signing a really bad contract and throwing your rights away and waiting 5 to 7 years and doing that, But the thing
Wow.
is that when you're young and you're passionate, or even when you're old and you have this dream, you're like, yes, they want me and nobody else wants me.
Well, and
So
it feels good to have that yes.
yes, the approval after so many
Well,
rejections.
yeah,
Yeah,
because that's
but it
if
doesn't.
you're querying agents or
Yes,
publishers or whatever, you're going to get a ton of no's.
yes, that is exactly what happened. And so even with my first book that I wrote, the Right Naked, I tell people you've got to go beyond that. You have to give yourself that time because it's a different world now, and you may not want to sign the contract, especially with self-pubbing, where you have more.
Yeah.
I didn't really have anywhere else to go, but if I had
Yeah.
hung on a little bit more and like done things, but regrets are kind of like they lead you into the next one. So
If you've learned from it, then
yeah,
it's,
yeah,
it's part of the journey. So
yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah. So it really made no money. And then I ended up getting the rights back. They went bankrupt. And then I was able later in the day to self-publish it and put my little spin on it. And it's still old and it still shows up my first book and it's still dated, but it also has that really raw, stripped down passion of youth that I will never be able to rewrite. And so I
Yeah.
for that. And I think when people are reading like those old Harlequins and stuff like, or Love Swept that I still love to read, I think there's still a market for it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so I'm not going to update it too much because it is what it is.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay. That's very cool. I was thinking when you were talking about the whole finding the publisher piece, and I don't even know if like agents were part of the process in at that time or not, but and this is a weird analogy, but when my sister and I were taking care of my mom who had dementia, we made a list of what we knew we needed
Yeah.
and what was important to us when we were
Yeah.
looking for places for her to stay. And it's kind of the same thing where if you want to be a published author, what's your list of things that are uncompromisable, I guess, things that you're going to say yes, this is when you know it's right.
Yeah.
And then it'll give you a lot of information when you do get something to look at.
That's a brilliant analogy. I never thought about it like that, but we look at like always worrying about what another person needs, especially somebody that we love, like a parent or a
Right.
sibling or something. I love what you just said. We need to look at it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody's needs are different. Like
Right.
maybe your biggest need is to be in a bookstore, even if you're going to give away money and rights. Maybe
Exactly.
your biggest need is to make money for your family and see it read. Like there's no right or wrong. That's the other thing.
Exactly.
So somebody can give you so many pieces of advice and it's all great, but it just depends on, is it right for
Yeah.
you?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with, you've got the big five, you've got boutique publishers, you've got indie publishing, you've got hybrid. There's so many options right now.
Yeah, it's
It,
so cool because like again, we had Harlequin and the big five and there were agents and then that was it. The gates were locked.
yeah, they
You
were.
couldn't ask anybody. I love I love my age sometimes. I really do. Like, because when you get to see the history of it,
Yeah.
it's so exciting. But the thing is that I will never be the one to be like, oh, it was so much easier back then, or it was better back then. It wasn't. It's just different.
Different.
Even with the kids, like, I'm not one like, oh, the phones are ruining no, like, you have tools. Like, now AI is the big thing, right? Oh, it's
Yeah.
going to ruin it. It could, or maybe it couldn't, or maybe we use it. And it's just kind of like, instead of going into the panic mode or like,
Yeah.
it was better then and getting clingy to that. I think it's freaking amazing that there's so many routes, but with more choices comes, what is it, Yoda, more
Yeah.
responsibilities and more.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like sometimes I want somebody to be like, look, you got A or B. I'm like, thank God, because I've got 30 choices to make and it's
Exactly.
stressful. So if you look at the
Yeah.
book world, that's really where we are. And I think we're teaching everybody, like, what choices do you want to make? Like it's a cafeteria style.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So then you went from Heart of Steel
Yeah.
to like getting a huge contract. What
But
was
not
that process?
really. There was a lot of steps in between. So Heart of Steel, so that went really bad, but I just kept writing. I'm just writing. If you think throughout the background of like my life, my day jobs, my what other careers that I was trying to figure out, which I wasn't really good at that. I had like, insurance and college careers, like all this other stuff, like trying to do that. I'm just like working and putting things out and writing different things. And then what happened is the erotic, the more erotic contemporary books or even historical books became popular. This is back when Red Sage was big. And I'm trying to think, I think it was Kensington, and they started coming into the bookstores, or you could order them in like, where they're not in the bookstores and they're kind of like shorter, like sexier kind of things. So
Okay. Yeah.
at this point, I was like, everybody was like, Jen, you write a really great sex scene. And I did, because it was like, but it's like the emotion and stuff. Like, I love it. I had no problem with it. So I was like, maybe I'll sharpen it and try to like go after that market. It was the new hot market. So
Okay.
I ended up selling a novella to Red Sage, where I made a little bit of money for the first time. Not something you can really, talk to your aunts and uncles about and your mom. But, at that point, it was like, I was proud of it. I was like, I'm owning who I am. And then there was a publisher, they're still there, Decadent, and they were writing these like shorter, like erotic novellas, and I sold like one there. So I
Ooh,
started kind of, I was like, okay, and then Red Sage wanted another one. So I started building in this kind of erotic novella world. But at the
okay.
but as this was going on, I got married, I had two kids back to back. I had a full-time job with an hour and a half commute one way, an hour and a half one way.
Oh,
So I switched to like mommy stuff, like mommy blogs and mommy essays and short stories. And I got my master's degree. So this
oh.
was all going on at the same time. So you put all of this in the till, and then what was happening is I graduated, my kids were in diapers, they were older, and I was like, I am lost here in this writing world. I've lived my whole life. I wanted to make this career. And then what was happening is RWA was in Orlando at the time. And I had no money, but we were saving for a kitchen floor. And our floor was like so bad. And I went to my husband and I was like, instead of the kitchen floor, I want to go to RWA. And he was like, go for it. He's like, we've had the
That's
kitchen
so
floor
awesome.
for years. Like he always had my back with that.
Ah, I love
Even
that.
through all those years of like nothing, he would just like, I'll take the kids, you write. Like he was really great,
Oh,
which is great because he was able to reap the benefits later when I finally did. Like
exactly.
he was
Oh,
so
that's so
proud.
awesome.
Yeah. So I went
Oh,
to RWA, and what that did for me was I
hmm.
realized that I was still treating it like a hobby and I wasn't treating it as a career. And I had had this book called The Marriage Bargain that had literally done its rounds like through New York. I think I had 30 rejections. I couldn't get it and I couldn't get over it. I kept saying, I feel like this book is special, but why doesn't anybody want it?
Yeah.
It was driving me crazy, even though I had written more books and stuff like that. So when I was in RWA, they said there's this small press called Entangled. They're doing these romances. They're trying to go after Harlequin. Why don't you go there? Sure enough, I queried. They loved it. And they said, February of 2012, we are releasing 4 books in this new series, and we're going to put it out there in digital for $2.99, and it's going to be this. And they did really smart moves to make it like big on the web, and I was one of the launch things.
Oh,
And
cool.
so the story was it's a crazy freaking story. I got laid off at work, and I was on my last month of unemployment, and I couldn't
Oh,
find a job because I had 2 kids in diapers, and I was tired of commuting like an hour and a half away. It was crazy. And we had like no money. And this book goes out, and I remember it was at night and I was praying and I was like, I'm so tired, God. I was like, I'm so tired and broke, and I'm out of options. And I've got to like, when I was like selling jewelry on the side and doing this and doing that.
yeah.
And I said, I need a sign. I need a big sign because I don't know what to do anymore. And then I came down with this stomach virus that swept through my house. And I emerged 48 hours later.
Oh my.
Had been out there, and I bring up the computer screen and the book is #1 on Barnes and Noble, and The
Oh my
Hunger
gosh.
#2. So I call my husband over, and it's just like, I've told this story a million times. I know, I'm sorry for the people who are like, but like literally we looked at it and we agreed that the computer was broken, and we literally turned it off and unplugged it because we knew it was a lie. There was impossible. And then my entire life in 24 hours after that, like just blew up. Like it blew.
Wow.
So it never left Barnes and Noble, and then it started overtaking Amazon, and then like weeks later, it just kept selling, and it hit USA Today, and then it hit the New York Times, and it was on there for 26 weeks. And then
That's
I was
amazing.
furiously writing the others. So what had happened is then people were like, "Oh, where's your
What else
backlist?"
have you
All
got?
I
Yeah.
had was that one Heart of Steel one and these erotic novellas, and
Oh
people are like,
my.
what else? So it looked like I had done nothing, like I came out
Right.
of nowhere. But meanwhile, I had like 18 books and 5 billion rejections. So it was just great, but then it became, and I know authors have done this, like you need the right product, you need the right market, you need the luck, because there is luck
There is
with
there is an element to luck.
big on TikTok or however you were
Hmm.
discovered. There's this cauldron, I think it of not just the perfect book. You need the
Right.
perfect book, but it's got to go boom, boom, boom. And then my thing was, well, I am not letting this opportunity. I've waited like, 35 years for this.
Yeah.
And so I went into work mode where I was just putting out 6 to 8 books a year, like boom,
Wow.
boom, boom. I was working nonstop, and it was a lot. It was a lot, but
That is
I
a
was
lot.
so just pumped up from, this is my time. So I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna let my time go away. Yeah. So that's like the whole backstory of like
That's amazing. I love that. And
craziness.
so
Yeah.
were you able to stay home once that
Yes.
book paid
So
off?
after that,
Okay.
I had my last month of unemployment. Again, it was like I kept telling my husband, I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do. I'll do anything to get money. You know what I mean? Like not anything, but but then I was like, nobody would want me anyway.
I've had two
No,
kids for crying out loud.
no, but then that became so big that I was able to then transition right into full-time writing.
Nice.
Yeah.
And did you publish all of those 6 to 8 with Entangled?
No, that one, what happened is there was 3 in the series from that. It was the Marriage to a Billionaire series. And what happened is the book had gotten so big. Agents, I had no, all those agent rejections and all those editorial rejections.
All of
Then
a
my
sudden they're like,
they're,
hey.
they're like, we want you, we want you. And I was like, oh, this feels really good. It just felt really good. So what had happened is we ended up selling it. The big thing then was selling to New York, you know what I mean? So they can do it in paperback and do it in like a big way. And then I ended up with Simon and Schuster, and we signed a few more contracts, and I did another book with Entangled. And then I kept self-publishing amidst those big things because I knew I needed to keep a finger in the pot there. I like
Okay.
to do different things. I don't want to
Yeah.
write one book. So I did like new adult novellas, and I still did erotic novellas, which I loved. And I did story about a rescue dog, and I ended up doing children's books later and a paranormal, like whatever I wanted, I kind of did on my own because the publishers were like, you have to show me this, this, and this. But that's what I loved about self-publishing, that it kept me,
Okay.
going. So I'm a big thing about don't put all your eggs in one basket because you never know when that's going to fold. And eventually it did. I mean, I got fired by Simon and Schuster, like down the line after like 3 big series. They were like,
Wow.
romance is dead for us. You're not selling as well. See ya. And then I had to reinvent, and find another
Yeah.
thing and then reinvent again. So it's not anything where when you get your big break, like I think I thought that was
Yeah.
going to be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I'm
that's
here and I get to stay here and it's
really
awesome.
want, yeah, like it's not like that. But then again, maybe if it was like that, I would become too, I would become too flat or too with the writing, like, pain forces growth, forces change. And so I've looked at that sometimes as a gift, even though it's not pleasant,
Right.
you
Right.
know. So very interesting.
Well, and it probably makes you a better business person when you are forced to learn so much.
So well said.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's not just the writing, it is a business now.
It is a business.
Really,
Yeah.
you need to kind of like, we're not in the days where you just, used to write. But
Mhm.
again, we also get to have more options in there. So we can publish ourselves, but then we're business people. And
Right.
even when another publishing part, you have to take care of your own marketing. Don't ever like put, oh my gosh, okay, that's done. I signed this contract. They're going to do everything. That was another bad lesson I learned.
Yeah. They
Um,
don't.
there's just so many along the way. And
Yeah.
like, 5 years from now, we're going to get on this podcast, and we're gonna be like, oh my God, like
And
this
you remember when
always, always.
we were
Yeah.
so concerned about AI back then?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. Put this on the thing because I want us both to see where we are. There's so
Exactly.
much change in the industry. I love to see what our,
It'll be fun to see. I totally
yeah.
agree with that. That's so funny. So when you write, where are your books set? Or are they all over the place?
They're mostly set. I like the small town contemporaries. That's the bulk
Hmm.
of my thing. And the second part, there's 2. There's the small town contemporaries where it's mostly New York. I'll experiment like here and there with like some different things. And the second one is my women's fiction books are all set in Italy.
Yeah.
That's kind of like my travel thing. My tagline is meet me in Italy. And so I want to just do a whole bunch of different types of books in different parts of Italy, maybe expand,
Nice.
with Europe, but that kind of like settles that. I like a little beach setting too.
Nice.
But
Okay.
like small town, you know, beach, quirky small town, lots of opportunities for different characters to come and series to kind of come up and stuff like that. And of course, there's the occasional New York City, but again, like it's not all set in the city. It's kind of
Yeah.
like in and out. So yeah,
That's
and I wouldn't any kind of setting that interests me, I would be ready to dive into.
that's awesome. I'm trying to figure out how to get a trip to Italy paid for through my writing because
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
do a retreat there,
Yeah.
and because I want to set a series in Italy. I
Yes.
have it all in my head, except I haven't visited the spot that I want.
Yes.
So minor detail, but
Yes. Well, not, but like research trip, writer's retreat, tax write-off for the business, if you like incorporate it and stuff like that. There's definitely ways to do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I keep thinking, okay, so would I could I convince a group of authors to go with me to Italy and explore?
Yes. Yes.
Probably.
I don't think that's gonna be too much of a hard sell.
Sign me up.
That's an easy one. Yes.
That's yeah, exactly. That's so funny. You just did a Kickstarter.
I did. I did.
Tell me about that. Well,
I'm
that's
still in
something
the
new
midst
I've
of,
been seeing as well. So
yeah. Yes. So this year for me is a lot of change and growth and doing like things are changing, you know. So I need to kind of like get in, and I had wanted to do a Kickstarter like 2 years ago. I was like, I want to get in before like everybody is in. But I really, every time I dove into it, I was like, oh my God, like this is a lot and I don't know what I'm doing. And there wasn't a lot of people that had like headed before me,
yeah,
you know? So I kind of always got distracted. And then I was like, it was deadline after deadline after deadline. And then, you know, I have a family and I'm like, I can't do this right now. But then Kickstarter started getting hotter and hotter. And what
okay,
happened is there was this course called the Kickstarter Accelerator by Monica and Russell. They're selling it out there. It was a great course, a great course. And because I am the type of person, um, I'm one of these input and intellection is really big with me, like in
yeah,
my 10, and I need to sit with things and learn them. I'll dive in, but I don't want to dive in and not know what I'm doing. Then I panic. So this was a way that I can go through the course
yeah,
module by module and learn all of the things. And it was, I give people credit when they can jump in and just figure it out. To me, this was a monster. I'm not
yeah,
saying to put people off. Everybody should try it. Like, but it was, I needed to clear my docket and I was done with deadlines and be like, okay, this is the project that I want to do. So remember I told you back in the day I had sold another one to Entangled.
yeah.
The rights came back for me.
Oh,
So I
okay,
took them back and it hasn't been out there. And it's a little bit of an older book. It was in 2013. So I thought what I'd like to do is reinvigorate it, everything new, some bonus scenes, some things that I wanted to do and make it for a 10-year anniversary tradition,
nice.
do a
Okay,
hardcover, you know, swag, like all sorts of stuff, and then kind of like dip my toe into it. So that's exactly what I did. I ran it for 30 days after like a month of like doing the course. And wow, it's a lot of work.
I
And
would
at one
imagine.
point I was like, I didn't know where to put the funding, but I put the funding at 4,000. That's what I started with because I really needed that to do like the large print. I want to do large print because my son has a vision issue
Okay,
and I'm into the world. It's one of those things where you're not aware of certain things until somebody in your inner circle, everybody knows that. And all of a sudden
exactly,
you're aware of it.
exactly.
So when we go to bookstores and everything has to be this large font for his vision loss. And I was like, this is something that I should offer. Again, I was like, let me start with this. So I wanted to, you know, offer like a hardcover large print edition, which was it's much more pricey because there's so many more pages on it.
Right.
So I ended up getting my goal, going over goal, and now I'm in fulfillment stage, you know.
Okay.
So I'm still like figuring things out I spend, hours doing like distribution stuff and shipping stuff and figuring things
Yeah,
out. But I know the next time it'll be a lot smoother because
for
this was my
sure.
learning project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's really cool that we have this new way. And then what I'm going to do, like probably in August, because I didn't want to do it for at least 3 months, because the Kickstarter I'm not going to do the hardcover large print. That's done, but they were able to get special things that were not going to be offered. And then I'm going to put it up for sale, the regular ebook and a regular paperback in August.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
almost looked at it as a pre-order launch. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Instead of doing a big pre-order, I did the Kickstarter for it.
that's really cool. What a fun experience.
Yeah, it was a lot, and I don't
Yeah,
regret anything, but yeah, sometimes I'm not like, oh my God, Jen, why can't I figure this out? Or why can't it, but it's systems. And I really think that all the new things coming in now, once you like focus on one thing instead of 30 things to learn,
right.
and then say, I'm
Hmm.
going to set aside this amount of task blocks for that, and just kind of like do it.
Yeah,
We
and
have a
just
better,
take it. Yeah,
yes,
because I'm kind of like that too, where I have to, go systematically through
yes,
something, and yeah,
yes,
I
yeah,
prefer a guide versus just
yeah.
jumping in and figuring it all out myself.
Yeah,
It takes
yeah.
way too much
And
time.
it's all over the map too. So like mine was like an average, I was really happy to make that like that fund, but like you'll see a lot of people just not able to fund yet. So they'll like
Right.
do different projects, and then you'll see people who fund at like $30,000. Like it just hits like big money there. Now, of
Yeah,
course, you've got a lot of fees and you've got the thing, but you can do it smart. And I think it's a matter of just like learning like what works for you, where your sweet spot is. Really interesting. But I would
that's
encourage
cool.
everybody to do that. And look, if you're like me, look at the course. Like it's called the Kickstarter Accelerator. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, because I watched your whole launch with that, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that is
Yeah.
so interesting.
And
So
bless you for like that was the other thing. Like I am not used to like corresponding with my newsletter subscribers like all the time. Like twice a month is my sweet spot, or once a month depending. I was there like every other day. I was like,
you
hey,
were,
me again. Like I've got this up because
in
it's
case you didn't see my other 10 emails. Yeah.
it was a different kind of thing. And I had to be comfortable with that and be
Yeah.
like, look, if people are like me, somebody said this, I've got to find the author who said it, or somebody. And it was a light bulb for me. Okay. They said, I get 2 days every day, two emails a day from Walmart, from Target, from that. And not once have I said I'm subscribed. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Like,
Exactly.
as long as I have something to say,
Hmm.
like here's a sale, here's another add-on, here's a thought from me or whatever. So I was like, maybe that's changing for me too. And maybe we do need to be contacted because it's so easy with our attention to forget. So I'm kind
Yeah.
of like looking at that in another way. So that was
I
helpful.
I totally agree with that. I was in a mastermind, and the lady leading it commented that she sends, especially when she's in launch mode, but she sends a lot of emails because she wants to kind of weed out the people who aren't her super fans.
Yes.
If they're just lurkers, they're going to get ticked off by so many emails, and they're going to unsubscribe. And they're not
Love
her
it.
people anyway.
Never thought
And
of it like that.
I
Yes.
know, yeah,
Like, don't be afraid of the unsubscribes because you
exactly.
don't maybe want them on your list anyway. Yeah, that's a great outlook.
Yeah. And you want the people who want to be there, and they're
Yeah.
not going to get mad about getting more emails from you.
Yeah,
And I love
exactly.
that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think that's so fun.
Yeah.
So, very cool. So, you've had some new books come out recently, nonfiction and fiction.
Yeah.
So, let's talk a little bit about those.
Yeah. Let's see. So we're a week. Last Tuesday was Save the Best for Last.
Yeah.
The last book in my Twist of Fate series. It was my favorite book because it had all the things that I love the most, that total opposites attract, enemies to lovers. I love a good makeover story. Like the guy is a walking, like he's in love with this woman who's friend zoned him, you know what I mean? And he wants to just like, he hires Tessa, my character, who's like the queen of makeovers on this women's, self-care empire. And he thinks she's shallow in this. And they're always like, so what I did is I seeded it through the first two books, like they don't like each other.
Oh,
Every time they're
nice.
together, like something bad happens. And I had so many readers are like, Jen, I believe in you, but maybe not, because these two are never going to work. And I was like, I love the challenge of that, you know? So he's like, okay, she's got to do sports in her magazine and she hates sports. And so she brings his sports stuff on and he says, take me on, make me over so I can make this woman love me. She's the woman of my dreams. And then, you know, you see all of the banter along the way.
Yeah, the
I've got
chemistry.
2 uncles in there that have a dog party. He's got 30 rescue dogs and all of my favorite stuff. I
love
just
it.
stuck into that book. So it's a really fun, lighthearted, you know, book that I'm really proud of. So
Awesome.
I love it because it's standalone. So like anybody can go to my series. I'm big with that because tropes are a thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't like this. So you could just literally say, I don't like 1 or 2 because of this, but I'm going to try 3. And then if they like it, you know, you usually go back because
Yeah.
you the author's voice.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
and
And you
fun.
get to know characters and it's fun to
Yeah.
see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've started
Yeah.
a series at like number 8.
Yeah, me
And I'll
too.
go all the way back and start from the beginning and then
Me
go all the
too.
way forward.
Yes, or find like your favorite characters. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know what book is there. Oh, they're book 3. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
Yeah,
So
it is fun.
yes, so that's out there.
So
And then
that one's called Save the Best for
Save the
Last.
Best for Last.
Yeah.
Yes, that's on Kindle Unlimited. So that
Nice.
one.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that's out there in the wild. And then the last nonfiction book I did, it's called Writers Inspiring Writers, What I Wish I'd
Ooh,
Known. It's right there.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice light blue cover.
So what happened is I collaborated with Erin Branscombe, who this was her idea.
Okay.
She does Amazon Live interviews and stuff like that. She'll
Oh.
do so we were interviewing and then we talked off set and she said, you know, one of the questions that I ask all the time is, what writing advice do you have for like everybody? And she says, I've always wanted to do a book where I band all of these fabulous authors and like put it in one book. She says, but I can't do it by myself. I'm kind of like a newer author and I've got this. So she asked me to collaborate on it. So we did. And basically it's 40 really great authors who have long-term careers and they sit down and they do essays. It's 40 short essays about what they wish that they'd known or what piece of advice. And so it's all over the map from like craft to marketing to like friends in the business.
Yeah.
I love it because it's easy to read. You can read like 2 essays at once and then put it aside for another time.
Nice.
Yeah. So that came out and we're just
what
like,
a fun project.
Yeah. A fun I just love writing projects so much. I just love to keep, you know, my toe in the pool with all of that. There's just like so much always going on and it's nice to kind of give back and feel that back and forth. Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah. That's on my bucket list. We're doing a no spend February, my husband and I, except that
so good. Is that working?
well, I haven't bought like a Starbucks this month, but we did get to buy a new refrigerator.
Okay, but that's you needed to.
We had to, yeah.
You got to do, yeah.
Yeah, we got to buy a new stove.
Okay,
that went out too.
So but it just works that you try not to buy anything for those 28 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
so no extras is kind of what we were thinking. So, you know, no Amazon, no, you know, going to the mall or, you know, that kind of stuff. So we kind of had a budget for groceries and, you know, all of the normal bills that we know we have to have. And so it worked that all of these things that we had to buy didn't go on the credit card. So
yes, it kind of like offset. So did you hear about that somewhere or did you, as far as you know, you and your husband are like, we're going to do this and we're going to call it like.
Yeah, I just kind of was like, we need to do, you know, let's see what this looks like for us.
You're going to be famous now because we've got to put this out. No, first of all, do you know how famous Dry January has gotten?
Oh,
think about it. Everybody
so
has talked about Dry January, right? Like holidays are over, no alcohol for 30 days. We have to put this virally out there because I love the idea of for 28 days, absolutely nothing but everything that you need and see what you save and just like get into this whole budget thing.
When we had like a list of things that we were allowed to spend money on and how much. And so I had like the book covers for my new books that are kind of,
Yeah.
I had that on there because I knew that would be coming up. And there was, I think editing was on there and I
Okay.
had that, but I didn't have a refrigerator on there.
But you
I didn't
saved
have any
from like,
tires on there, but
no, but that was just life stuff, but you saved.
yeah,
So you didn't get any Valentine candy
we
unless,
didn't.
oh,
We didn't. So yeah. And it's
that's
funny
so
because
fun.
yeah, we don't do Valentine's anyway, but I did have a box of brownie mix that was already here. And so
Okay, so I've heard we've got dry January and we've got digital detox, which is another big thing,
that's a
right?
big one. Yeah.
Stuff like that. You are going on the map. We're going to find out how we can put you out there so we can get you on GMA and you'll be
There
like,
you
"Look, I
go.
started this with my husband. We don't spend any money in February. We make it there." It's just really cool. So I
And
give
by
you
the way, buy my book.
my book right March 1st.
So save the best for last is
Yes.
in KU.
Yes.
What I wish I'd known is
Yes.
the
That's
collaborative
paperback
one.
everywhere. Yep. All digital stuff like that. Yep. That's out there.
Awesome. And I
Yep.
saw that you have, and it may or may not be out yet, but you have Love Me Anyway, a new standalone. Is that out?
Yes, that is actually one of my older erotic novellas that
Yeah.
I got rights back to. It's wonderful getting rights back. That's the other
I would
thing.
imagine. Yeah.
It's so much fun to look back on an older book and reinvigorate it, write some new scenes, recover it to the market, put it out there. So yeah,
Did you
so it
make it
was
a full-size novel then? Or
no,
is it
it's
still
still
a
a
novella?
novella. It's still,
Okay.
yeah, it's like, I don't know, 40K, something like
Okay.
that, 35K. It's like a, it's not a small one. So I did that with Love Me Anyway, and then All for You. There was two of
Okay.
them. And there's one more coming, and I'm going to drop that this summer. And that's going to
Woo-hoo.
be called Masquerade. So it's going to be
Oh,
fun
fun.
because it's also, I haven't gotten a hot guy on a cover in a long because my branding is like a little different. So I got to put like the hot guy on the cover
Yeah.
and go a little edgier. And it's just really nice to reach different segments of readers because I read all over the map. And
Same.
I think there's a lot of readers that do the same kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's nice to swivel and be like, okay, you're not going to have a rescue dog in this. You're going to have this. You're going to have that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And offer it there. So
That's
yeah, so
awesome.
that'll be
Yeah.
coming out in the summer.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun. So are you heading back to Italy in your books
Yes.
anytime soon?
Yes. I just okay. So what had happened is last year I was writing my third women's fiction book called A Wedding in Lake Como. We're going to all Lake Como, Lagio, like all around there. It's
Nice.
amazing. I was able to go there years ago and spend the day, and just
Ah,
like being back was wonderful. And this one is about three college friends. It's really kind of delving deep into the dynamics of female friendship. But
mm,
what had happened is last year, went through a bad time in the winter. I have that depression issue in the winter. Each year is different. I was
yeah.
burnt out and I lost like 3 months. I couldn't write for 3 months. It was just not happening. So I kind of like, I had a couple of other things due, and so we ended up pushing it out. So it was supposed to come out this year, but unfortunately because of those months and I needed to write it, it's going to be coming out July of 2024. But it's
Okay.
all done and it's in copy edits right now. And the one that I'm working on now, which will be in 2025 because they're ahead, is that summer in Sicily. So we're going to Sicily for the next one.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. That's
Yeah,
summer
so
in
those are
Sicily.
all coming down the pipe. Thank
Nice. I look forward to those because
you.
I love your Italy series. I just
Yeah,
or I
yeah.
think they're just so much fun and I like a book that takes me there. So and
Yes,
yours
and I like
definitely do.
more of my time, more of my research. I can only do one of those books per year. Like they're
Understandable, yeah.
bigger and from what I want to bring, and so I just like to explore different dynamics in it. It's able
Hmm.
to give me a broader platform for that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
It's I can imagine that when you've written for so long and so many different things that it's fun to write something different and
yeah,
yeah.
I think that we always need to do that.
Hmm.
You know, I there's times where I think where, you know, when I was obsessed with marriages of convenience, which is still my favorite trope of all time, I could literally write like 7 to 10 of them. But then eventually, I got to a point I was like, I got nothing left. Like there's nothing, you know,
Yeah.
so it's like, what's next and what's next? And I think also as I'm aging, there's different things that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Women's fiction really, it was nice for romance to take, there's romance in every one of these books. There always will be,
Yeah.
but it's nice for it to take a back seat to
Yeah.
some of the other issues that I want.
Hmm.
um you know, and then there's this other little side project, god knows when I'm going to get to that, but it's about an old man and a rescue dog and a preacher, and I've been bubbling on that, and that's one of those side kind of projects that when it's the right time it'll come, and it's exciting to have those.
It is. It's funny because I was talking to a friend earlier and I was like, I get so many books written in my head between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. But then at 6 a.m. they leave me. And if I don't get up at 3 a.m. and just write it all down, it's lost. And I don't get up at 3 a.m.
Yes.
So
Think also, like, I think a lot of writers like us, like, we have these ideas, right? Like these, you can see the book, like you said, if only, wouldn't it be wonderful if you can dump what's in your head, which is so perfectly fantastic, and just
yeah.
put it to the page. But somehow from here to the page, it gets all screwed up. And you're like, this sucks. Why
Yeah.
did I think this was a good book? I go through this all the time.
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
I suck. Everything sucks. That should be my next writing book. It all sucks.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Telling
I
you,
think that would be really good.
the motto. Yeah. And but then it's kind of like you kind of like wrestle along, but not every idea is meant for now, because like then think of it like we have our business, right? So I have this great book, this fantastic rescue book, and it's blurry and stuff, but I'm telling you, it's going to be the best book I ever wrote. But when I sit down at my desk, I was
It's
like,
not time
I
yet.
have
Yeah.
to write this and I have to write that, and I need money to pay my bills, and these
That little
readers
thing.
need that. And so, and I can't, I'm not one of those writers that can write like 2 books at one
Mhm.
time and like put it off in the thing. Some people can, they can
Yeah.
write a passion project. So I think it's important for the people like us who like just to be patient and be like,
Yeah.
it's all okay. You don't have to get it all done in 1 year and you don't want to burn out.
Yeah. Exactly. I've been, as these ideas do come to me, I've been kind of marking them down, putting them
Yeah.
in a project thing and say, okay, as ideas come, I'll just plunk them in there. And then
Yeah.
at some point, it's going to be time for it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And so my new thing is, because I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan, he like gets my mind set right. But the biggest thing that this new light bulb thing that I've taken for him that he's got all the credit for is we always overestimate what can be done in a year and underestimate what can be accomplished in 5. And that has given me so much
interesting.
comfort, because when I think about what I've done in the last 5 years, my mind is blown. I'm like,
Yeah.
I am an amazing person. When I think of
Yeah.
what I've done in the last year, I'm like, I suck. All these other people are doing this, this, and this, but I'm not looking at it right. So if
Yeah.
I go on like that 5-year plan and I'm like, so it's just, it's a mind thing. Like what
It
will
is.
make
Yeah.
you feel good and what will make you feel stressed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. And it's hard to figure out like goals. Like my word for the year this year is audacious. And isn't that a
I
good word?
love that word. Mine is badass,
I love that.
which is pretty much audacious.
It
Like
is.
we've got the same word. And
I
that's
love
why it's
that.
the Kickstarter. And that's why I'm doing things that I'm going to fail spectacularly at. And I'm like,
Exactly.
going to get up and I'm going to be like, okay, well, whatever, because I'm so excited. Our words are like
I know.
very,
I love that. So in sync. I figured my goal for the year is to publish 3 books this year. And I've never published a book in my life. And I didn't start at 5 years old knowing I was going to be a writer. I didn't think anything. It was, I think, November of 2021, I got an idea. And I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea. It sounds kind of fun. I'd like to read the book.
yeah.
And so I kind of shared it with an author friend. I'm like, does this seem like a legit idea? And she's like, you totally need to write that. I'm like, but I don't know how to write. And she's like,
But
oh, you've got this.
oh my gosh, this is so recent. I love this.
It
So
was
you're
like,
at the beginning of this whole like creative journey and kind of,
yeah,
I love that goal. And
yeah.
it's just about like being audacious.
I figure if I fail, I'm still going to have at least one, probably two books out there. As
Exactly.
the first one's with the line editor right now, so I know that one's going to be good.
I
But it's
love it.
like, yeah,
I'm so excited for you. That is
I am too. It's
wonderful. And it doesn't, I think failure, you need failure to succeed. Like you don't have one without the other. And
well, and
so
if
this,
you have like these crazy, badass, audacious
yeah,
ideas or
yeah,
goals,
yeah.
and you fail, you
Yeah,
still had a dang good year. I mean,
exactly. Exactly. I'm just
yeah,
kind of like, and then you fine tune. You're like, okay, that book didn't work, but is it this, or this? Or God, I learned this. This second book is gonna like freaking do so much. Like there's so
well,
much hope there for the next time.
yeah, oh
So
yeah,
instead of like, oh my gosh, it's all over, like I can't do this again, it's like, yeah, that sucked, but
I
I'm
got
gonna
this.
do so
Well,
much.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I
mindset.
like that. I'm going to have book two written, pretty much all written before book one even goes out. So I'm glad about that, just mentally.
You're doing this. You are so
I
doing
know,
You're
and it's just
already
crazy.
more than halfway there. You're with
Yeah.
this and one more book to go. So that's
Isn't
awesome.
it crazy? And
Yeah.
it's funny because uh, I was talking to a new friend I met on TikTok. She's an author, and she puts a ton of content out, and I had no idea I was ahead of her in the process. And she has started and started and started, but has never actually finished a first draft.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's a hell of a step I did then. you know,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes. Yes,
so
that's important too, because what we see out there on social media, who we think is killing it or not, um, it's just all, you just don't know what's happening in the background. You
you
just don't
don't.
know.
Yeah,
Or you
you
could be
don't.
killing it, but like nose to the grindstone and you're exhausted, or you could, be very quiet out there and then be killing it like in, maybe bank over rank or whatever. So
Right, right.
it's a good reminder for everybody to just like take a step back and be
Yeah.
like,
And the whole comparison thing it's
hard.
a tricky one.
It is, because we're human, and humans,
Yeah.
are just built with this kind of like, what are you doing? Am I better than that? Like sometimes not, I say many times, most of us, like probably like 90% of us are more of like, yes, I want you to succeed, but I want that too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and
don't
that's
let's
okay.
get
Yeah,
that
not taking
from
anything away
somebody.
from
You
you,
just,
but
you just want to go too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I've been trying to focus on like comparing myself with maybe last year me
Yes.
and next year me,
Yes. Yes.
and not being too much outward. I mean, it's hard just
It
because of the
is,
world we live in, but
my boys are big with track and cross country running and everything. And what I love so much is, to me, it's a very different type of sport because you're on a team and you place, but you are yourself. So you
yeah,
go against other runners that are like getting close to you. But when they come back, and I'll say, what number did you place? Sometimes they won't know. Well, I don't know, but my PR is, I beat my
exactly.
PR. That is such good gold mining for me. It reminds me all the time. I was like, they're in competition. They shaved 1 second off themselves. So it doesn't matter if they didn't make states because they're
Right.
not fast enough. They're going. So if we could be like more on that,
Yeah. I
I think
still
that,
got a PR even if I didn't
yeah,
win, quote
that's a
unquote.
really
Yeah.
cool sport, like
I
in
love
that
that.
kind of
Yeah.
way, rather than our entire team lost. It's like, yeah, but I did this, or I didn't, I would be like, oh, he's like, oh no, ma, I was 5. They're running a 3 something or whatever. And I was like, but I cut off 2 seconds in PR and they're so happy. So I'm like,
Yeah.
this is great.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Good reminder. That's so funny. Okay. So where do you like to hang out with readers
Oh,
online?
I'm everywhere. I've got Instagram, author Jennifer Probst, TikTok, author Jennifer Probst. I'm on Facebook. I'm still on the old Twitter.
Twitter is one that I have never
Yeah,
figured out.
yes. Well, there was Spoutable drama and then the Mastodon I've never gotten into because I just don't have the thing. But so, and the main thing is the website is the best place.
Okay.
JenniferPropst.com, because there's so much fun stuff. You get a
There
free book,
is.
you get free bonus stuff, you get videos. And I always say to everybody who, like, I'm very big with reader email, you'll get me. You're not getting my assistant. Like,
Okay.
I read your book, I loved it. I'm doing this, or I had a question. I love to hear from readers. That's like my thing. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Very cool. It's so funny how, I mean, and I was like this for a long time, that as a reader, you don't even realize you can email an author, even if it says that in the back of the book or on their website.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they're gonna, you know,
Yeah. But they do.
they
Like, I
do.
started doing it too. Like, when I read a book that like blows me away or something, I'll just message them and I'll be like, I just want to let you know that this was freaking awesome and you're a genius and this is really a great book. Like, because I know when I get those, especially if you're having a bad day, it comes from
Yeah,
nowhere. And this is why I'm doing it. Like, because, somebody likes my stuff. Somebody went and bought and like took their time to like write an email to me. Like,
yeah,
hello, like that. We need to reset our expectations about, like, that's a big deal. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, it's important. And even like reviews, a lot of people don't leave reviews because
Yeah.
they don't want to have to leave this big long thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, put 4 or 5 stars up
Yeah.
and put, I loved this book.
Yes.
And
So
that's enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so simple. It doesn't have to be like the synopsis of the book. You've
yeah,
got few sites that do that, but like just for a reader, love the characters, love the setting, fun
yeah.
book,
Put your
anything.
favorite thing in it.
Yes.
I
One
really enjoyed
sentence,
so and
do
so,
it.
or,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Really appreciated. Like that, those,
yeah.
it's sad, but it does really affect the algorithms. And
Hmm.
that algorithm is just like the more reviews that come up, they just kind of show your book a little bit more.
Right. Amazon decides, oh,
Yeah.
okay, people are
Yeah.
liking this one. Let's
Yes.
show it more. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's important. And I know it is a pain in the neck, but keeping it short, if you already have an account, it can be done like that.
it can be done
Same thing with
quickly. Yeah,
BookBub. You could just do it on BookPub too. It's like Goodreads. You could do it on the site, or you could do it with BookBub.
yeah. And even if it's a free book that you get through KU,
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
it's super important to the author, and
Yeah.
it's a way to support authors that
Yeah.
you might not
Yeah.
have
We should all
readers
read.
might not have thought of.
We love dogs, coffee, and reviews.
Exactly. That's so funny. I love it. Jennifer, thank you so much for
You're
being with me today.
welcome. I'm just so glad we got to catch up. It
I
was
am
so much
too.
fun. And I felt like we kind of went deep. It was really good for me too. It was
It
like,
was a
right?
lot of fun.
I know we shared a lot of good stuff.
We did. Well, we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, not so long the next time.
I agree. I
We'll do a
agree.
markings. Yes.
Well, good luck on all the stuff you're working on. I know
Thank
you've got a
you.
ton
And
of
good luck.
projects.
I'm gonna look out for that gorgeous cover and all the good stuff. And yeah.
I'll let you know when it's out.
Okay. Sounds good.
Bye, Jen.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Thanks for joining me today on the Literary Escape podcast. If you enjoy hearing the behind the book story, then join me in the Literary Escape Society. We're a community of travelers who love books, or maybe book lovers who love to travel. Either way, if you need an escape, a literary escape, come join us as we read our way around the world together, one book at a time. Check out the show notes to learn more about the Literary Escape Society. And we'll see you next time on the next episode.